Hey guys, this is Eckhart's Letter. Hello and welcome to another video. And not just another video, but another Mandalorian video. I'm doing videos on the Mandalorian because the show makes me happy. That being said, today's video does contain spoilers for the recent episode of The Mandalorian, although just saying that alone is a bit of a spoiler, but it's also Tuesday. You guys have had time to watch the show. So, episode 1 of season 2 of The Mandalorian came with a couple of big revelations. Boba Fett's armor is still intact. I mean, we knew that was a thing because Cobb Vanth is a character who's existed in the Star Wars Expanded Universe since the Aftermath series, but the armor itself is now in the possession of the Mandalorian. But of course, Boba Fett himself is also alive and will most likely be looking to reclaim his famous armor. So I thought it'd be fun if today we went back to one of my favorite books from my childhood and examined the functionality of Boba Fett's armor. So in front of me as I'm recording this, I've got the Star Wars Ultimate Visual Guide. Now, this book is built on many visual guides from the past. Basically, anytime there's a new Star Wars movie, there's a new visual guide, and all of those visual guides are always recollected, and it's sort of a bit of a scam Lucasfilm has going, and I'd say that's very evident when you look at the Boba Fett page because almost nothing has changed since I was a kid. So here's the thing about Boba Fett. There is more to his armor that's not in this guide. We learn a lot about it in Legacy of the Force, but I'd say a lot of that is relating to his helmet, which in Legends by that point has also been significantly upgraded. But we know Boba Fett, of course, has top-of-the-line communications and scanner systems. His helmet has a bunch of different visor and communications modes. That's not super interesting. Let's talk about the things that he can use to kill other people. After we do that, we'll take a look specifically at what bits of the armor are remaining in the show, so we can try to guess at his remaining functionality. First off, let's look at his jetpack. According to the lore, despite my assumption, those two little pods on either side of the rocket are not backup rockets, rather they're fuel tanks and rangefinders, basically extra equipment to help the rocket and the jetpack function. And to be fair, it's probably more accurate to call the thing on his back a missile because it can track targets, as we see in this episode. The missile, and again another nod to the Mandalorian here, is aided in firing by the targeting rangefinder on Boba Fett's helmet. The helmet additionally has a beacon call, basically something you can use to call your ship even from a distance. And this is something that anyone who's ever played the Shadows of the Empire game and played that horrid boss fight probably already knew. Aside from blowing things up, Boba Fett's armor makes use of a variety of hidden blades and sharps. His boots, for example, have spring-loaded spikes, which can be activated and kicked into an enemy to inflict massive internal damage. His knee pads have a dart launcher, as do both of his gauntlets. It seems like his knee pad darts are actually explosives, while the darts in his gauntlets are simply projectiles. Still, that is a lot of opportunity to do damage. I mean, even if Boba Fett loses his weapon, he's got these sort of covert, less obvious ways to inflict a lot of damage. But sometimes it's better to use the obvious choice. Like Din Djarin, Boba Fett's gauntlet is connected to a fuel line which powers a flamethrower. Now, to me that does seem to be a little bit dangerous. I mean, you have an exposed fuel line, but I don't know, I guess sometimes it's worth it if you want to disintegrate your victim. Boba Fett makes use of an EE-3 blaster rifle, although we also know Fett had a whole cache of weapons on the Slave One, from traditional slug throwers to highly advanced and specialized energy weapons, but the EE-3 was sort of a mid-range carbine, which makes sense for Boba Fett because if you look, the equipment he chooses to carry with him, Boba Fett likes to use stealth and security to break his way into locations where he can then fight somebody at close range. A lot of his equipment is dedicated to breaking through force fields and lockpicking. Regarding the EE-3 specifically that we see Boba Fett with, we also have to remember that Luke Skywalker cut straight through that thing on Jabba's sail barge, so there's certainly no guarantee that it will be making an appearance again anytime soon. Just a final few details I'd like to mention. The first is that Boba's wrist gauntlets can also be outfitted with different types of projectiles, including those for stunning or killing an enemy, of course, depending on what's needed. Boba Fett made use of a survival knife and a sonic beam weapon, the latter being something that literally fires sound in order to presumably incapacitate but perhaps permanently disable an enemy. Boba also had a grappling hook, and his entire suit was powered powered by a single onboard computer which he controlled from his helmet. So let's talk about the armor's functionality as it currently sits, and this one is very simple. The armor is on the back of a speeder bike, so it won't be effective at all. I'm obviously just joking. Whoever wears the armor though will notice that the jetpack, which was injured during that same battle at Jabba's, has been repaired, but still is a little bit prone to activating very aggressively with simple touches. Parts of the protective armor are obviously present, including the outer blast shell and the power armor underlay, which protects not only against weapons but also heat and cold. However, the flight suit itself is missing, as are the suit's utility weapons and some of its smaller features like the Wookiee braid. The flight suit is probably not the worst thing to lose. I mean, you can replace it with any flight suit and most pilots would have one. If you're on planet, you obviously don't need a flight suit, although Boba's specifically would have obviously been expensive and offered more protection than just standard clothing. The main defensive pieces are intact, including, of course, the helmet, which seems to be in perfect shape. Additionally, Cobb seems to have got his hands on both gauntlets, the fuel line to the jetpack powering the flamethrower, the jetpack itself. So that's a lot of additional weaponry. The rocket dart launcher on the knees, the 2 dart throwers, the flamethrower, and the jetpack rocket. I don't think he has Boba's boots, although it's a little hard to tell. The best look is during the flying scene and he's moving pretty fast, so let me know if you spotted whether he's got the spiked boots down in the comments. So there's a lot here. Although it looks like Boba's armor is kind of shabbily put together, really all that's missing is the flight suit, which I would argue is the most replaceable part of the armor, the codpiece, which I didn't mention but would of course protect extra protection to the lower body, some of the utility pouches, one of the knee pads, and some of the sort of optional extra equipment. Still, the rest is there, albeit pretty beat up, so whoever dons this suit of armor does have a lot of potential, especially if they put a little time into improving it. So here's an interesting question: is there anything the Mandalorian could scavenge from Boba Fett's armor to improve his current setup? Well, for one, I think the knee pad launchers would make a great addition to his arsenal, as would the wrist launchers, although he already does have a flamethrower, and the whistling birds, so maybe it's not possible. I do think Boba Fett's helmet is also a significant improvement, although while it might be nice to have a rocket launcher, I don't think the sort of unreliable jetpack is worth swapping out. But guys, that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did that, you'll leave a like down below. Did I miss anything about Boba Fett's armor? Is there something from the sort of later era of Boba Fett and Star Wars Legends, particularly Fate of the Jedi or Legacy of the Force, that I didn't talk about that I should have? I look forward to reading your comments and more down below. Until next time though guys, have a good one, be safe, and may the Force be with you.